from the oldest city in the USA, St. Augustine tonight, with our guests, Warren Clarke, Chad Light, and musical guests, the Grand Paxton Band. And your host, Jorge Rivera.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are back, show number 2. We survived show number 1, I told you. So it's great to have you all here. I want to give out some shouts before we start the show. Once again, the Foxtrot Creative Studios for this wonderful banner, and also for Garrett Brothers Home Decor. Also to our makeup artist, Stephanie Newman. Yes, that's why I look like I'm getting married. Yes, yes, yes. And our caterer for this show is Crave, and their food is unbelievable. Very, very, very healthy for you. It's healthy for young people. It's healthy for you. Okay. You know, I was on a plane, well, not too long ago, I was on a plane. And I had not been on a plane for a while. And the thing with the plane is, for all the years before I got on that plane again, I'd watch these commercials where they keep telling me they're giving me more inches, more inches. You got more inches, more inches. And I thought, you know, when I get on that plane, I could basically dance Argentine tango in my aisle, because they've been giving. When I got on the plane and I sat down on that chair, my knees were almost touching my ears, okay? And I just prayed that the guy in front of me wouldn't either lean back or my tray would hit me in my chin. So the one thing that amazed me is I was there sitting, and there was a young person with a cell phone. You know, how many here have a cell phone? And I'm old school. I see the kid with the cell phone. I'm looking over. He's sitting next to me. He's by the window. I don't like windows. And I watch him. He makes a call on the phone. They don't answer. He's angry because the person he's calling doesn't have the phone around their neck, okay? Number one. So then he calls again. I see him. The great thing about cell phone, or I think the bad thing about cell phone, is you don't need to memorize numbers anymore. When I was young, I had 20 numbers in my head. I knew my girlfriend's number. I knew my number at home. I knew the place I worked. I had tons of numbers. No, he pressed. He got angry. Okay? So now he sent a text, all in, you know, capital letters, exclamation mark. I'm watching him. Sends the text. He sits there. He calls back. He leaves a voicemail. Then he's still angry. Now he goes to Facebook. He goes into Messenger. He sends him a private message. And I looked at him, wow, life is so good. Because when I was a kid, you had to walk to something we called a payphone. You walked half a mile to something, a payphone. When you got to that payphone and you picked up the receiver, the cord was hanging, you know. So you hung it up and you walked up to the next payphone. When you made it to the next payphone, which was adorned with wonderful graffiti, you said, great. Don't have a quarter. That's a problem. So now I hang the phone. I go looking for change, okay? I come back. I pick up the phone. I drop in the thing. It was a whole ritual. In my neighborhood, you know, phones were vandalized everywhere you go, all right? And people needed phones. We didn't have lottery in my neighborhood. As a matter of fact, in my neighborhood, what we had, everyone had the same winning number. It was 911. And the winning thing was, hope the police shows up, okay? So that was the thing on that. So I'm looking at how great it is now. These kids are so spoiled. They all have these phones, and they're always working their whole lives in there. And I remember when we actually had to walk to a phone. Remember these? Remember these? Yeah, you waited. You did all those numbers. Then it was busy. You started again. Hey, yeah, it's unbelievable. I was in East Germany when it was communist, and that was the phone system. It's like going back 30 years. And oh my God, these people are still on the telephone. Oh, I cannot believe that. But listen, when we come back, we're going to come and we're doing a little magazine, because I'll introduce it. But let's go to these messages and we'll be right back.
At Martinez & Associates, we can help you with many things. Number 1 is income for life throughout your retirement, which is very important. Number 2 would be Medicare choices, which are very confusing. Number 3 is a legacy for your loved ones. And finally, keeping you independent throughout retirement. My name is Tuli Martinez. Call this number. Y hablamos español.
At St. Augustine Distillery, we're part of a new generation of American craft distillers. Family owned and operated, we are committed to making the best possible spirits using local agriculture. Our distillers make everything by hand, from mashing and blending to distilling and tasting each and every batch. We distill and bottle everything we sell, making sure that the spirits are just right before barreling and aging. Bottled by real people, we love showing our guests not only what we do, but why we do it. We're passionate about educating our guests to not only what goes into each bottle, but how to make the best possible cocktails. We love St. Augustine, and thanks to your purchases, we're able to give back to the community and help local organizations each and every day.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
St. Augustine Distillery, handmade with pride in the nation's oldest city.
Our ingredients are mostly natural. It's palm oil, coconut oil, olive oil. We put cocoa butter, shea butter, and real silk in our soaps. Also, it's something that's pleasing to the eye and you enjoy using it. Come visit us at Antoinette's Bathhouse.
We're back, I promise. Thank you. Now, one of the guests that we have tonight was a gentleman who dressed up as Pedro Menendez. And he was everywhere. For years, he played. He was on horses. He was on posters and everything. So we thought, what a great question to pose the public after all these years and ask, do you know who Pedro Menendez is? You're going to find out. The answers, unbelievable. So let's watch this magazine and see what happens. Do you know who Pedro Menendez is?
No.
Pedro, my good friend.
No.
Okay. All right.
I don't know who. No.
Okay.
I do not.
Someone Spanish.
Good guess.
There's a high school named after him.
Yeah.
I know that much.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not originally from Jacksonville, so I have no idea.
No.
It's gonna be a no.
All right.
He pitches for the Red Sox.
I'm assuming it's you?
No. I wouldn't be that old.
I have no idea.
Do you know who Pedro Menendez is?
No, I don't.
Do you know who Pedro Menendez is?
No.
Do you know who Pedro Menendez is?
The founder of St. Augustine.
Who is Pedro Menendez?
Oh, Pedro! Is he the one guy that sings from Spanish? From Spanish class. We listen. I don't know.
Pedro, come on. Was he a bull rider?
A bull rider?
Yeah.
Okay. And you thought he was a singer?
A singer? I thought he was a singer. Oh.
Huh?
A fighter?
Pedro Menendez.
Some French guy.
French. Does he sing a song? Does he sing?
Who is Pedro Menendez?
Pedro Menendez? I don't know. It sounds Hispanic, but I do not know.
No.
Do you? Of our city.
Chris is leaving. All right.
Do you know who Pedro Menendez is?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Any guesses?
No. A singer?
Baseball player.
Actor?
Actor?
Yeah.
Do you know who Pedro Menendez is?
I do not. Who is that?
Any guesses?
He discovered St. Augustine?
Do you know who Pedro Menendez is?
Pedro Menendez? Is that my dad? No, I don't think I know who he is. So I don't know who he is either. All right, who is he?
He was the founder of the town.
Of this place?
Yeah.
What
150 years ago.
What a guy.
Yeah. Huh. Special. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
What
Thank
else
you.
you got for me?
That was it. That's our question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good
All
one.
right.
So bad.
So now you know who Pedro Menendez is, I hope. Well, we have a wonderful show coming your way. We have Warren Clarke. We have Chad Light. And we have the Grand Paxton Band, and I'm going to leave you with them with a nice little melody to just start out.
Hello, everybody.
Ready to go? Which one you want to do? Let's do Dandelion. Okay. Ready to go, bud?
In any industry, the best known product is the one most frequently purchased. Think of industry leaders like Coke, Nike, and Starbucks. It's true in real estate too. The most successful realtors have strong personal brands. In fact, branding is especially important in the real estate industry. The National Association of Realtors tells us that reputation is the most important factor when choosing an agent. And another word for reputation is brand. It's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Over here. What's happening?
That feeling, only better. Turbo. Standard in a 150 horsepower, fun to drive, Volkswagen Jetta.
We're back from messages. Thank you.
Hey.
And we're delighted to have our first guest of the St. Augustine Tonight show, Warren Clarke.
Great. Glad to be here. Thank you.
It's so nice to see you because I've been such an admirer of a lot of your work that I see through the city. But give us your full name for the record, sir.
Okay, Robert Warren Clarke.
Okay. And you're from here, from this area?
I am. I grew up in Mandarin.
Mandarin up near Jacksonville?
Yep, on the St. Johns River.
Oh my God. Has that changed much?
Just slightly. We had black bears in the woods when I was growing up. Oh. Don't think you'll find those fellas there anymore.
Wow. And so you just grew up in that area, always here, or have you ever stepped out?
Oh, sure. I lived in Argentina and Peru for about 3.5 years, and you know, Jorge, what that did, because you had that, that there's that Hispanic heritage that you have and that you love. It made me a citizen of the world instead of just a citizen from one country only. Right. And that is a whole different perspective to be able to see the world in that way.
Yes, yes. When you step out, yeah, I wandered for 14 years around the planet. And,
did you?
You ask yourself a lot of questions about you, and sometimes you see these issues in the world, and we're having a trivial matter over the wallpaper in our bathroom. I realize there are more important things than that. But now, a lot of people know you here. You're very active in a lot of things in the community. And Once I mentioned your name, and the lady said to me, "Oh, he is such a wonderful man." And it's because, you know, you're always there
Jeez,
ahead
you
of...
need to tell Pam that.
But my question is, how did you get into illustration? I mean, when did you find yourself with that first pencil?
I always loved, oh gosh, in grammar school at Loretta Elementary School in Mandarin. A couple of guys and I, we were always drawing and always doing art.
How old were you then, you think?
I was 8, 9, I guess, yeah.
mhm.
But majored in art in college.
Okay.
And then did art in Argentina. I started a Christian Artists Guild in Argentina, and I was there working as a church worker.
Okay.
And did graphics art for a Christian Communication Center. But yeah, ceramics, silk screen, copper engraving, because one of the guys was from Chile.
Okay.
And using copper, which is a major resource in Chile, they've learned to really do beautiful, beautiful engraving.
In Sarajevo, I saw artists using the shells that were killing them. They were taking the casing and turning them into these beautiful things of art. And there's this conflict. Oh my God!
And that is art.
Yeah, that is the human spirit, to find art. Yeah. So your illustrations, the ones I tend to see around town, tend to have this historical theme to them. Sure. Explain that to me.
Well, always loved history. Came to this town many, many times growing up. In fact, it was like a second home to me. I knew St. Augustine just as well as I knew Mandarin, or even better than Jacksonville. Too. Yeah. And so that kind of background, my parents loved history. We'd always stop and read the historical markers when we were driving around. But I started exploring Florida with my children. And we would go out just exploring all over the state and finding interesting things. And I would introduce myself to local people and say, well, I'm a Florida historian. I mean, not academic, but I'm definitely an historian in that loving to learn the history and then illustrate it. And it was amazing how much that was a door opener. People just want to talk to you.
And how did your children feel, you know, going around with
Dad? They loved it.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I know your daughter, for those who don't know Warren Clarke's story, it's Jessica Clarke, who does the news. On what channel is she?
First Coast News.
Yeah, First Coast News. And I saw her digging in an archaeological dig.
She's been doing that for 4 years.
And
it's more than just doing it, you know, because it's like the celebrity thing or whatever. No, she loves it.
Yes.
It's really discovery.
Yes.
And working with Carl Halbert and the other volunteers that are doing that. She was doing that dig right downtown, in the oldest part of downtown, where they were discovering the skeletons from the old church, the first church.
I made some jokes about that in the last show, that I found a baseball ticket in one of those bodies. It's kind of funny. Yeah. Well, show us something. I saw you brought us something. Just show it to the camera.
I did. Okay, good. The first one here is, this is a map of Spanish colonial Florida.
Wow.
Okay. And the reason why I did the map is that when I was growing up here in St. Augustine, the basic way of talking about the Spanish here, and this was Anglos talking about the Spanish, was, well, you know, they were here, but they didn't do very much. And then when we Anglos got here, then we really made the state just blossom and do all this. And so I wondered, well, is that really true? Where were the Spanish? And I started looking at old maps. I started doing research at the Historical Society Library here and other places. And I found out they were all over the state. And not only that, there were strings of missions that went up as far as the Chesapeake Bay. And there were a whole bunch of missions around the Tallahassee area. So the reason why we don't have them here anymore, they were made out of plaster and thatch and wood, so they all rotted away.
Right.
Whereas in California and Texas, then they're made of stone, so that's why they're still there. So this was my way of saying the Spanish were really engaged in the state of Florida, very enterprising.
Yes. You know, to me, I lived in Latin America, and for us in Latin America, we study Spanish history.
Sure.
And of course, in the United States, you study British history. But when I saw where all the place the Spaniards were, I almost felt like they were an extension of the Roman Empire. Just, you know, place after place, the Philippines, here and there, nonstop. And the thing, you have something there that I love, another poster you have there.
I do,
I want to see that.
Okay. I was asked by the Visitors and Convention Bureau here to do 10 illustrations a year for the last 5 years. And when it was the 1964, the Civil Rights 50th anniversary of the passage of the Civil Rights Act, I did a set particularly on African American history in St. Augustine, which is very rich. And this is, of course, Ray Charles.
Yes.
And Ray Charles went to the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind. This is where he learned music.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where he discovered, and it's one of the things that I love that he said, I was born with music inside me.
Wow.
And I think that you can watch the videos of this man. If you've seen him live, you know he's got music right inside of him. There is the piano that he practiced on is at the Lincolnville Museum.
Yes, yes, and they have quite a lot on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he died recently, and yeah, we miss him. We miss him.
Yeah.
So where now? Where does your, because you also did like a cartoon or caricature for newspapers at one time?
Well, actually, it was on the same bent as history. They ran in about 50 newspapers around the state.
Wow.
Called the Lewis and Clarke Explorations of La Florida. Of course, they never made it here,
yeah.
but I was working with a guy that was Bob Lewis, and I'm Warren Clarke, and I think we're descended from the Clarke of the Lewis and Clarke expedition. And so we went, well, hey, that's a good name.
Right.
And then the interesting thing, when you're doing something like that, the people that you meet, and I was directing a large food distribution program, a nonprofit self-help program in Tampa in the west coast of Florida, and in walks a descendant of Sacagawea.
Wow.
And they said, you need to talk with our director, because they knew that I was doing those illustrations.
Uh-huh.
And so we had this great opportunity. I mean, this
Wow.
was the lady, the Native American woman that really was a guide for them and a
Yes.
translator, interpreter.
Right.
And
Incredible.
who would have thought that I would have met somebody that was
Incredible.
on that expedition?
Incredible.
Went to her house.
So, you know, I need to bring you back. We're running out of time. I'd
All right.
love to bring you back.
Well, I want to give you something before I go. Okay?
God, everyone.
This is for you.
Oh, my God.
And this is an illustration of the lighthouse here.
Oh, wow.
And-
Look at that. That is
Okay?
beautiful.
And I'm giving that to you because what you do in this community, Jorge, is you help us to see what's going on in our community from different perspectives. You are a real contribution to our community.
Thank you.
I deeply appreciate you. I know this audience does as well. Thank you for what you do and how you're using your life's energy.
All right. Thank you. I got
All
a little
right.
mushy there.
Okay.
My mother used to call me Butter when I was little, because I'd always melt when someone told a sad story. I'd be the only one all teary. I'd say, come on, Butter. And so thank you so much, and we will have you again.
Great.
And like that lady said, you are a wonderful man.
Okay, great, buddy. You are too.
All right. And we're going to take some messages, and we'll be right back with our next guest.
Cool.
Okay.
You got your.
At St. Augustine Distillery, we're part of a new generation of American craft distillers. Family owned and operated, we are committed to making the best possible spirits using local agriculture. Our distillers make everything by hand, from mashing and blending to distilling and tasting each and every batch. We distill and bottle everything we sell, making sure that the spirits are just right before barreling and aging. Bottled by real people, we love showing our guests not only what we do, but why we do it. We're passionate about educating our guests to not only what goes into each bottle, but how to make the best possible cocktails. We love St. Augustine, and thanks to your purchases, we're able to give back to the community and help local organizations each and every day.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
St. Augustine Distillery, handmade with pride in the nation's oldest city.
At Martinez & Associates, we can help you with many things. Number one is income for life throughout your retirement, which is very important. Number two would be Medicare choices, which are very confusing. Number three is a legacy for your loved ones. And finally, keeping you independent throughout retirement. My name is Tuli Martinez. Call this number y hablamos español.
In any industry, the best known product is the one most frequently purchased. Think of industry leaders like Coke, Nike, and Starbucks. It's true in real estate too. The most successful realtors have strong personal brands. In fact, branding is especially important in the real estate industry. The National Association of Realtors tells us that reputation is the most important factor when choosing an agent. And another word for reputation is brand. It's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Okay, we are back. And our other guest of of St. Augustine tonight is Chad Light.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody knows you. I mean, you know, I told people our guest is Chad Light. Oh my God, Chad Light. Everybody knows you. And your full name for the record, sir?
Chad Philip Light.
Okay. Yeah. And you played, a lot of people know you because you played this character, or you almost channeled Pedro Menendez. And you did this for a long time.
Yeah, about 6 years.
Wow, wow. How did you get pulled into that?
Fell into it backwards, really. I was a member of Menendez. We were doing the landing every year. And the landing had gone through several changes over a couple of years. And the guys that were in charge of it in 2010 had me asked if I would be Menendez. And at the time, I had long hair and a braid that went down to my belt. And
did you have a beard also?
I had the beard.
Okay.
I had the beard, but I told him, I said, if I'm going to do Menendez, I'll cut my hair. But if I cut it, then I want to be Menendez through the 450th. And we all agreed as long as
We're talking about how long of a time from the time you said that to the 450th?
Well, that 5 years. So we knew, but it allowed us to really perfect what we were doing all those years up until the 450th, which even with the protesters went off without a hitch. I mean, we all did our part, and for so many people to be looking at St. Augustine. But that and just the other events that, that we did throughout the year, with the galas, but just the personal appearances that we made at different events, not only in St. Augustine, but around the state of Florida, because we also had, in 2013, the Florida's 500th, and of course, St. Augustine makes a claim to Ponce de Leon, certainly.
Yes.
So I did that as well. So it was busy.
Yeah, because we'd see you on horse, we'd see you walking, we'd see you in the parades, we'd see you in commercials. I mean, did you ever take that costume off? I mean, you were wearing that all the time. I mean,
I wore it more than I didn't. Let's put it that way. Truly, especially when I was working, firing the cannons at the Fountain of Youth.
Right, right.
I was dressed like that every single day, and I didn't bother to go home and change when I went out. So people were just used to seeing,
you having a sandwich.
All of us out, at the 8 o'clock at night, and I'm still downtown with my sword, dressed as a conquistador.
Yeah, and my thing was also, your costume looks so real.
And I spent a lot of time on it for authenticity.
Right. So how did you find out what they wore?
Well, if you go back and look at pictures, there's a pretty distinct transition from what I was wearing when we first started doing this to what I was wearing by the time of the 450th. We learned more. I had time to be able to hand make things, get the right boots, get the right sword. That copy, David Baker, who is one of the judges on Forged in Fire on the History Channel, made the sword and dagger copied from the Menendez sword and dagger at the Naval Museum in Madrid. Yeah, and then he also did an aluminum version with an aluminum blade, so that I could use it in the battles. So over the years, we collected a lot of really cool stuff to make the Menendez persona, what it was.
Right, because when I see you, and I see other reenactors, and everything from Sir Francis Drake Ray to all these other things, the word perspiration comes to mind.
Oh, absolutely.
It is, they are just soaking wet with these helmets. Is that wool, what this stuff is made out of?
The stuff that I was wearing was wool. A lot of the materials will vary depending on the authenticity of level.
Yeah, leather.
Wool, however, it does breathe. And the perspiration, once you've soaked your inner garment, you can stay quite cool even on a very hot day.
Right.
But you need to hydrate, and you know we have people drop out every now and again, just clunk, you know, down on the ground.
Oh, I thought drop out means I'm not going to do this. You're talking about literally dropping.
But you know, everyone accommodates that. This is Florida. But this is the same environment that they had to operate in. You know, those guys marching up to Fort Caroline 3 days in a hurricane. They faced a lot harder issues than we are. We just have to make it through a parade without bumping our own head.
Right. Because here's the other thing. You know, I cover little stories around town.
Right.
Suddenly,
well, that's how we met.
Well, yes, and that's how someone suddenly called to me. There's an unveiling of a statue at the Fountain of Youth. Cool. Whose is it? It's Pedro Menendez. Great. I'll be there. And I go with my little camera and everything. I set up, and when they show the sculptor, it's you.
Yeah.
It's like Pedro Menendez, the actor, now has made a statue of bronze, and I was, what does this man not do? How did you end up making a statue of bronze of Pedro Menendez?
Well, like your previous guest, Warren, who's actually a friend of mine as well, and I admire him very much, we have very similar stories. We started with art when we were kids.
Right.
And so I'd taken sculpture at university. I didn't major in art, I majored in psychology, but art was still very much a part of an outlet for me. And so, you know, I learned how to sculpt and I learned how to paint in, you know, high school and university. And so carried that with me. And when I knew they wanted a statue at the Fountain of Youth, I know the owners well enough to know that they were going to want a statue that was very realistic. And that's how I got my foot in the door. Wow. I didn't have any work to show them. So Steve Benninger
That's a
said,
great resume. I have no work history.
Yeah, I've got no work to show. He goes, listen, we know you can paint. We know you can do all this stuff, but what have you done?
Right.
And he goes, we need to see something. And I said, this was Sunday. And I said, all right, at your business meeting on Tuesday, I'll bring an example of my work. And so I went to Hobby Lobby, bought all this stuff. Shout out to Hobby Lobby. Bought all this stuff and made this bust of Pedro Menendez that I still have. And I walked in, unveiled it, and boom, got the job.
Oh my. So when they saw the clay, what you had done.
Yeah, the bust.
The bust.
They were convinced I'd be able to do the whole thing.
Wow. And you did.
I
beautiful.
did, and it only took 7 months longer than we thought it would. They were getting nervous towards the end. They were like, is this going to be done? Is this going to be done? And I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
So, I learned a lot and made great friends with the guys at the Foundry who also they're doing the El Faro Monument, that we have one in Jacksonville for the crew of the El Faro that went down October. And we're also putting one in San Juan, Puerto Rico later this month, identical. And so I've made a lot of good friends through all of this, you know, the years.
Wow.
So like my last interview with Pedro Menendez was Jessica Clarke. She just caught me on the sidewalk near St. George Street.
Right.
You know, walking back, and yeah, it was very, it was surreal but also sentimental, but it's one of my favorite interviews that I ever did.
So you had no regrets of doing Pedro for 5 years?
Oh no, not at all.
Okay.
And one of the only reasons that I had to step out was I needed to devote time to my career, and I knew I would be traveling a lot more. That, and it was very expensive to be Pedro. And so...
Because you volunteer for this.
Right, almost everything was volunteered.
Right.
You know, the amount of money that we're talking tens of thousands of dollars, and I'm not kidding. And so, yeah, I needed
You really absorbed that character. You really wanted to be him as much as you could.
I did.
So you invested in making him
I'm
as
not a
real as
method
possible.
actor, but I definitely tried to crawl inside the mind as much as I could of this man. And you had some great scholars that helped us out with all this.
Well, you've been to Spain. You've been to Aviles.
Been to Spain, Aviles, the historians there. You know, Kathy Deegan, who I got to know really well from the digs at the Fountain of Youth.
Right.
Gene Lyons, who I had the honor to meet repeatedly. Dr. Gannon, who recently passed away. You know, I was able to call him anytime. And Michael Francis, got to know him. And these people just helped me no end in being able to flesh out a very detailed image of Pedro Menendez, who he was, the things that he did, his faults, but also the things that he was good at.
Okay, well, here's my last question. How did the Spaniards feel when you were in Aviles researching and says, I'm actually him over there in the States?
They didn't have anyone in Aviles that represents Pedro Menendez. They have, he is a native son.
Yeah.
And they honor him or commemorate him in that respect, but they're also very aware that the confrontation that they had here with Jean Ribault and the bad press that he's gotten for his decision to execute the greater part of the French that surrendered on both days.
I'm glad he didn't have Facebook.
Well, all the women and children, they all made it, and you get a lot of people saying, well, he killed the French. Well,
Yeah,
more French survived under his sword than were killed, but he did kill a bunch. And so, or had it ordered. And so in Spain, they were very, very conscious of this, not to applaud him too loudly.
Diplomatic Europeans.
But when I got over there, everybody wanted their picture taken with me. So it was, there's still that sense that they.
He's our son.
Right. He's the native son.
Mama still loves him.
Yeah. Mama still loves it.
Mama still. Look, it's great having you. I'd love.
It's always
to have
good
you
to
again.
see you. Absolutely, anytime.
I'd love to talk what your plans are for the future and all that.
Yeah. We can talk about hunting and everything else.
A hand to the band.
All right. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Cheers.
Salud.
What's happening?
That feeling, only better. Turbo. Standard in a 150 horsepower, fun to drive Volkswagen Jetta.
Our ingredients are mostly natural. It's palm oil, coconut oil, olive oil. We put cocoa butter, shea butter, and real silk in our soaps. Also, it's something that's pleasing to the eye and you enjoy using it. Come visit us at Antoinette's Bathhouse.
In her special way, and I just have to say, in my life, I love that woman, 'cause she's more than I deserve, and she gets me where I live. I'll give all I have to give. I'm talking about that hummingbird.
And we're back from those messages. Thank you very much. We always save our musical guests for the last dessert, we call it. And we have with us Grant Paxton. So nice to have you, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And tell us, Grant, tell us your full name by the record.
My name is Grant Liston Paxton.
Oh, wow. And where are you originally from, Grant?
I'm originally from Washington, Pennsylvania. A little south of Pittsburgh.
Little south. That's what they call real country.
Right.
Yeah. Your family were were they farmers? Were they people work with the land?
Yeah, I grew up on a small dairy farm. My dad milked cows for about 30 years, and you learn how to do a little bit of everything and anything.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Now you have this band called the Grand Paxton Band. How many people in that band?
There's 3 of us.
Yeah, and who are they?
Yep, it's me and Kevin Molesky on drums and Tom Burns on bass.
I've heard you guys play, and you guys are wonderful. Tell us a little about your musical background. What was the first instrument you held?
The first instrument I picked up was the trumpet in elementary school, and then I got a banjo for Christmas, I think, when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and I haven't put the banjo down since, and then kind of segued into the guitar and ukulele and really the jug, whatever. I'll pick it up and play it.
Wow, so you start with this wind instrument and you end up with a string instrument.
Yeah.
What did you find in the string instruments that you couldn't find in the trumpet?
Well, the banjo in particular, it seemed like when I was a little boy that nobody my age was really playing something like that. So I think I felt kind of unique with it.
The girls found you popular too.
Yeah.
All right, we'll not go there. We'll leave it at the banjo. But if you talk about your band, we talk about, I hate to do this, but I do this with a lot of musicians. I try to give them a genre. And a lot of musicians say, don't give me a genre. I say, I'm going to put you in a box. I'm sorry. What box would I put you in?
Yeah, so I call our genre grassroots Americana. And it's an Appalachian blend with country and bluegrass.
Wow, that's a big mix.
Yeah.
And why that music?
Growing up, I always listened to country music in the 90s. My dad had country music playing for the cows while he was milking cows, and probably helped him make more milk, maybe. I don't know, but that's where I have my love for that sort of style of music. Wow. And he listened to some bluegrass music, and from there, just playing with other musicians and playing with Kevin and Tom in particular kind of gave us the flavor that we have now.
Wow, wow. Is there all musicians, not all musicians, I think it's too absolute, but most musicians have someone who really inspires them, someone that, you know, hits that little part of their heart. It says, I like that, or I think I can do that. Who do you think were some of the people that influenced you?
Yeah, I would say several people. Really, whoever you listen to or play with inspire you. In particular, I really like Alan Jackson. I'm a big Alan Jackson fan. He was actually just here in St. Augustine, and so I credit my love for that country music to him. But I have other favorite artists too, like Dave Matthews. He's completely different genre and kind of has his own genre, and I think that's what I like about him. And so, 2 different kinds of people, but I would probably say those are my 2 inspirations for music. Yeah.
Now you play about how many instruments you play now?
I think regularly about 4 or 5.
Wow. I asked this question Amy Hendrickson when she was here, was if you had the time to learn another instrument, what would you pick up?
I would definitely pick up the cello.
The cello?
Yes. If I could learn how to play the cello, it might be like learning a different language for me, but I think it's one of the most beautiful instruments there is.
Well, when you see someone like Yo-Yo Ma play it, it's like,
it's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. I've heard some wonderful Argentine tangos on the cello, and your hair all stands up. Well, not much up here, but a lot of hair. My arms stand. It's so. Do you also think? I ask musicians. Do you think music heals?
Yeah, I think so. I think it can put you in the right place. It can get you through hard times. It can help you celebrate. It's everywhere you go. Definitely.
And if I had a friend who says when you break up with a girlfriend, it seems like every song on the radio is a conspiracy to make you sad.
It pulls at your heartstrings. That's for sure.
It's quite. So where do you see the Grand Paxton band going from here?
Yeah, so right now we play a lot of local places. We play downtown all the way to close to Palm Coast, and I think right now our goals as far as music goes is we'd like to do some recording.
Okay, now do you write your own, you guys write your own music?
Yep, we write our own songs, and when we play out, we do some cover songs as well. So we kind of blend in the songs that we wrote into songs.
That song we heard at the beginning of the show?
That was the original song, Dandelion Wine.
Wow,
Yep, yep.
How long does it take to put a song together? I mean, maybe that's a dumb question, but...
Yeah, sometimes you get in the mood to write music, and you sit down and just comes out. You sort of write the whole thing there, or at least a structure to it. And sometimes it's the traditional, you scribble a note on a napkin while you're thinking of it, or we sometimes write a song as a band. Someone just is messing around and plays a little tune, and then somebody else builds on it, and then it starts to develop into something.
It must be exciting writing music.
Very exciting. With a group, it's my favorite part that every musician that you play with, and in particular Tom and Kevin that I play with, they all have their different spike on it, their different taste for the music, and so I think it really helps us develop.
So it's a combination of styles then.
Absolutely.
And then you make a new style out of the three. That's very, yeah, that's very powerful. So I was going to ask you a question of how long have you guys been playing now together?
I think it's been close to a year that we've been together.
Did it work right away? Did you knew this had potential?
Yeah.
That first time you jammed together?
Yeah, so I started playing with Kevin Molesky, the drummer. I started playing with him for a little bit, and then Tom sort of came along, and once we played as a trio, we thought, man, we could do some good music. And so that's kind of how it...
Now let me give you the island question. I do this to all musicians.
Okay.
If you were on an island, you could only listen to one piece of music for the rest of the time, or the rest of your life, that you know wouldn't drive you insane, what do you think would be that song or that piece of music?
I probably shouldn't pick a bluegrass song for that one. I'd probably go mad. That's a good question. I think I'd pick something relaxing maybe. I like Norah Jones, Don't Know Why.
Wow.
Do you know that song?
Piano. She's a piano girl.
I think that would be a good song to have to listen to.
She'd be more like a jazz singer,
wouldn't
she?
Yeah, she's different. My genre skips all around sometimes.
Yeah. Well, but this is interesting. When I have musicians, and I've talked to classical musicians, I remember I had these two classical musicians that performed together, and they played really heavy-duty, difficult classical music. When I asked them who was their favorite, they picked like, oh, Beethoven, the other one said probably Bach. And then when I gave them the island question, they said, well, a piece by Debussy.
Right.
And it's like, you know, you'd figure they'd go, no, someone totally different. And so I'm not, you didn't surprise me at all when you said you picked someone who sings mostly as a jazz singer.
Yeah.
So, all right, so great. Would you guys play something for us?
I think we have some time. Does everybody want to hear another one? All right.
Okay, we're going to cut for messages. When we come back, the Grand Paxton Band is going to play a little, some nice music.
At Martinez & Associates, we can help you with many things. Number one is income for life throughout your retirement, which is very important. Number two would be Medicare choices, which are very confusing. Number three is a legacy for your loved ones. And finally, keeping you independent throughout retirement. My name is Tuli Martinez. Call this number. Y hablamos español.
In any industry, the best known product is the one most frequently purchased. Think of industry leaders like Coke, Nike, and Starbucks. It's true in real estate too. The most successful realtors have strong personal brands. In fact, branding is especially important in the real estate industry. The National Association of Realtors tells us that reputation is the most important factor when choosing an agent. And another word for reputation is brand. It's not who you know, it's who knows you.
At St. Augustine Distillery, we're part of a new generation of American craft distillers. Family owned and operated, we are committed to making the best possible spirits using local agriculture. Our distillers make everything by hand, from mashing and blending to distilling and tasting each and every batch. We distill and bottle everything we sell, making sure that the spirits are just right before barreling and aging. bottled by real people, we love showing our guests not only what we do, but why we do it. We're passionate about educating our guests to not only what goes into each bottle, but how to make the best possible cocktails. We love St. Augustine, and thanks to your purchases, we're able to give back to the community and help local organizations each and every day.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
St. Augustine Distillery, handmade with pride in the nation's oldest city.
And now, the Grand Paxton Band.
Daddy
much. This was great. Yes, that's our show for tonight. And hey, hope to see you next show. That's right.